Welcome everybody to the second part of the TCOM or the TCOM presentations for the annual meeting. We actually do, as you know, not have a physical annual meeting this year, but we want all the technical committees to present their work, which they did over the last year, and get information out to the interested membership. So I welcome you today on the second part of this webinar. And the first part was yesterday, and both parts should be recorded or are recorded and will be on the ISTA YouTube channel, where I invite you to follow ISTA on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I hand over directly to our president, Steve Jones, ISTA president, to give some opening remarks. Steve, please.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and I welcome another set of people, or the same set of people from yesterday, joining us again today. Yesterday's session covered the first set of technical committees and gave us a very interesting summary of the work they're doing, and I'm sure today will continue to give us that opportunity. The ISTA technical committee members and led by the chairs and vice chairs are an essential part of ISTA's work and do a great job, and I look forward to listening to their presentations today. So thank you very much, Andreas, and I'll hand over to you as moderator and look forward to the presentations today from the range of different speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve, as well. And just one other remark, if you have any questions coming up, please use the question and answer box in your control panel to put up questions to us, and I will forward them in one of the question and answer sessions to the panelists. We will have a break in between the presentations, and I would like to start with the presentation of the Statistics Committee. Jean-Louis Lafont and Kirk Raymond will be doing these presentations. Kirk, Jean-Louis, it's up to you now.
Thank you, Andrea. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well and that you can see my screen. I'm not sure.
Yes, we can.
Sorry. But I cannot see it, sorry. Just a second, I need to move. I don't know why I cannot see mine. Can you see it now?
We can see it, yes.
Okay. Sorry for this technical problem. So it's Kirk and I are very pleased to present, to show you the activity report of the Statistics Committee for the past year. And sorry, I cannot see my screen anymore. So I don't know what happened.
Maybe you can try to advance. So you're on the title slide. Okay, you can see. Okay.
You can see it now.
Yes.
But it is switching to the other screen, and I don't know how to minimize the other screen. Maybe. Okay. Okay, I will try. So here is the membership. So we have 10 members in the committee. So we have a lot of seats available. And so please don't hesitate to apply to be a member of the Statistics Committee. So
maybe you go to the second slide, Jean-Louis. We are still on the first one.
You are still
on the cover.
And now, so I think I have a problem. Just a second. You are still, are you, can you see the second one?
Not yet.
We're still seeing the titles.
Yeah.
Ah, so it's not working. And now?
No. Now it works.
There. Yes.
Sorry for this. I'm not mastering high technology. So I was talking about the membership. So we have 10 members in the committee. So there are some seats available. Our committee is providing support to other committees. First, we are providing support through doing report reviews. Last year, we did 3 validation report reviews and 4 test plan reviews. These reviews are time-consuming because we are checking all the statistical analysis, and we are checking also if the test plans are adapted to meet the objectives of the organizers. Another area where we are providing support to the committee is about analysis. So, for example, we provided 2 analyses for the Variety Committee last year. It was about the analysis of markers for P and oat variety verification. So we received the data in a form of a binary matrix with the markers, the varieties from the different labs. And then we computed agreement statistics just to check the reproducibility of the marker results across the labs. Another example is the support we are providing to the Gmo Committee. In particular, the Proficiency Test preparation for PT23. And we received a question from the Gmo Committee regarding the preparation of this Proficiency Test. They had 2 seed lots which were meeting purity requirements for organizing the test, but they wanted to mix the 2 lots in order to prepare the seeds. And what we had to check is that if the mixture of the 2 seed lots are have the same properties as the individual lots, and so we have to go through some mathematical proof to help them in deciding about that. And now I hand it over to Kirk. Kirk,
yeah,
it's your
thanks.
turn.
Great, thanks, Jean-Louis. Yes, we also, as a committee, we handle many questions that come in through the year from various countries. These questions aren't trivial. They aren't just a simple response to an email. Sometimes these questions could take hours, sometimes days to respond to, particularly citing the couple of the ones for the tolerance tables taking some time. So yeah, these aren't trivial. We take some time to answer the questions correctly. Okay, could you go to the next slide, Jean-Louis?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about a couple presentation and some special projects here. This was a very important presentation that Jean-Louis gave to a group with the industry on the Tobama virus, which is important to various vegetables, including tomato, for the host plants and also the seeds. And also Valerie from the Seed Health Committee was involved with this workshop, and of course myself as well from the Statistics Committee. But looking at the discussion around the ISTA rules for sampling was part of the discussion that Jean-Louis made in the presentation. Also an elaboration of the seed testing plans for commercial seed lots or large seed lots with the binomial distribution, and then also for small seed lots using the hypergeometric distribution. And also tied into the sampling, Jean-Louis had a nice sampling tool where you could set up a spatial sampling plan for the Tobama virus in a field setting or also in a greenhouse setting. So an important, impactful presentation given in the name of Vista at this workshop. Okay, advance to the next one. Thanks, Jean-Louis. Of the special projects that we worked on, there's one in collaboration with the GMO Committee, We had a publication in Seed Testing International, and it came from the fruits of some work. Enrico and the Gmo Committee hosted us in, I think, in February of 2019 in Bologna, the wonderful city of Bologna, and we at the university there, and we worked on the handbook, but also some of the fruits of that was this paper in Seed Testing International, which is a really nice user guide to seed calc. So it's a nice one to keep as a reference. It can go through step by step on how to use seed calc specifically for GMO testing plans, but also it could be used more generally for others. Along with this, there were some questions that were addressed with relation to the seed, going from the seed lot all the way to testing seeds for GMOs. We looked at, what is the minimum size of the working sample that's necessary? What are the maximum sizes of the groups within that working sample? And then, of course, what are the number of groups that you need? Of course, the number of groups times the group size gets you to the working sample size. And then also how to report the results, which we also have this in chapter 19 of the ISTA rules, but this was also discussed in this STI paper. Another special project that we looked at was a collaboration working with the ISO, and where we had a special liaison from ISTA comprised of Enrico and Jean-Louis, represented ISTA very well there in this ISO working group. And then Ray Shalito and myself were also in the working group, but representing as experts from the United States. But it was a very good collaboration working group there. A publication was, an ISO standard is currently being written. It's in a draft form, soon to be completed at the end of this year. But it's focused around GMO testing using group testing that I just talked about with regard to the seed health example. But just to give you a brief refresher on what is group testing. And so we give you here, we have the seed lot, we get our submitted sample and then the working sample. But the working sample, instead of testing individual seeds, we break the working sample into a discrete number of groups. And then we test the property of interest on each of those groups rather than on individual seeds. And like in this example, we have 10 groups of 150 seeds, 4 of which are positive. And then we're using a magical formula here, which is comprised of the number of positive pools, or the number of positive groups rather, the number of groups, which is 10, and then the group size, which is 150, and we can get a GM estimate of impurity here. So that's a little summary on group testing, which was part of this written in this standard. We also looked at the GMO purity in bioassays, using a bioassay such as a spray test, where we have N seeds are sown on a moistened towel, and then we let those germinate. We count the number of seedlings. This is important before we spray, before it's sprayed. And then we, of course, are looking at the number of seedlings that are not dead, or the surviving seedlings. So the total number of seedlings here is X. The number of the number of surviving seedlings is Y. And then you look at this, what's the right way to estimate the proportion of GMO? Is it the number of seedlings over the total number of seeds, or is it the number of surviving seedlings over the number of seedlings that you started with? And it turns out that, and a proof that Jean-Louis and I put together, that it is the number of seedlings divided by the number of surviving seedlings divided by the number of seedlings, as you can see here. So this was also part of that ISO, the ISO standard that's being written. Both of these are included in the standard that's coming out at the end of this year. So now I think turn it back over to Jean-Louis, please.
Thank you, Kirk. So another specific project is around GMO testing. So for testing for low-level presence or adventitious presence, we can use group testing. And Kirk has nicely explained what is group testing. We can use also a standard quantitative PCR and using the calibration curve, the standard curve, to estimate the percentage of GMO DNA in the sample. The problem is what about if the levels are not very small, are anywhere between 0% and 100%? Can we still use the methods that I just mentioned? The answer is no. So what can we do? We can use endpoint PCR on single seeds, or we can use bioassays as Kirk described it. The problem is that it is very expensive. So there is an alternative. So this is a quite new technology, well, some years, but it's quite new. It's called Digital Pcr. And with Digital Pcr, you can estimate levels anywhere between 0% and 100%. You are not limited to very small percentages. So what are the principles of digital PCR? So suppose you have a DNA sample with some target copies inside, and you put them in the digital PCR device, which consists on many partitions, which are very small volumes, where the copies are distributed randomly. So you can have in one partition no copies, in some partitions 4 copies, or in other partitions 1 copy. Using PCR, we are able to count the number of empty partitions, and using mathematics, and it's a special branch in probability theory, which is called the classical occupancy problem. From the number of empty partitions, we are able to estimate the initial number of target copies in the subsample. So what we are doing within these projects, well, we are developing the statistical framework for digital PCR for GMO testing. There are a lot of challenges because we want to take into account all the source of variation in this sophisticated process. So sampling from the seed lot, this is a major source of variation. We can have fluorescence error rates. We can have a difference in the small partition volumes, which can influence the probability. So we want to take all of this into account to get an estimate of the variance and the bias of the digital PCR estimator. So we are planning to publish some papers in the future around all this work. To finish this presentation, some acknowledgements, the statistics committee members, our ICOM liaison officer, Sylvie Ducournau, the ISTA Secretariat and the ISTA ICOM for all the support they are providing, the TICOM members for all the good discussions we have with them, and also the users of the tools we have developed within the committee. This is very helpful to get some feedback for improvement of these tools. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jean-Louis and Kirk. And despite the problems, you kept your time. That was very good. Thank you very much. I hope we can continue with less problems. We are going to have the next presenters. It's a couple again. It's Valerie Grimaud and Marianne McEvan from the Seed Health Committee. And I give the floor to you, Valerie.
Thank you, Andreas. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, clearly.
Thank you. So the Seed Health Committee activities. Oops. We are 15 members in the Seed Health Committee, and we are now missing our vice chair as Terry passed away last December due to COVID follow-up. And so, yeah, well. We have 4 very active new members who were elected in 2019. Marianne, who is going to give a presentation, Isabel, Corey, and Ruud. And we just also elected a new member, Dr. Mahesh from India, but he was not elected at the moment I did the presentation. Now I'm going to tell you about the method development and validation projects. So the first one was on Ustilago nuda. The report has been finalized. It's submitted to rules proposals, and Marianne is going to explain you what we have done. Marianne, you can unmute. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
We were looking at the use of methyl blue to stain the hyphae of Ustilago nuda in the ISTA methods 13A and 13B, and this was an additional to aid the, oh sorry, Valerie, next slide please. Okay, thank you. It was to help visualize the hyphae in the embryos. 13 laboratories participated in this method, 8 which were accredited for either method 13A or 13B. The seed lots used were the same used in the proficiency test for Ustilago nuda, and 3 seed lots, nil, a medium infection and a high infection of Ustilago nuda were used. 3 replicates of each of these were examined by the participants and the results were meaned. The validation results were then compared to the unstained proficiency test results for each of the participating laboratories. Next slide, please. Here are images of the unstained, both 13A and 13B, and the stained from a 13A method. Next slide, please. So, using a t-test to compare the unstained and stained results, no significant statistical difference was observed between lot 2 or lot 3. Next slide, please. So the conclusion was that the use of a methyl blue stain for the detection of Ustilago nuda did not change the number of infected embryos detected, so it's recommended that this option be included in the methods 13A and 13B as a minor change to the current methods. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Another project was finished also on the harmonization of hypochlorite pre-treatments for detecting fungi. So it has been completed and it's also proposed to rules proposals. So we, as you can see here in this figure, we compared different durations for seed lots for several fungal species that we wanted to harmonize. And we defined the duration and percentage of hypochlorite and also the follow-up for each species. So for 3 species it was the same, and only for Mopsis complex on soybean it's a little different because it's a shorter period. So based on these studies we were able to propose the change in the rules. About the ongoing projects that we have some which are on the project phase, like Ascochaeta on P, where we want to compare incubating conditions with near UV light and in the dark, and also adding different species of fungi. The problem we have with this test is that we don't have infected seeds. So please, if you have some, don't hesitate to contact me. One is on Pseudomonas syringae patovar glycinae, and I will talk about it a little later because it's a collaboration we are doing with NSHS. We have some projects which are at the test plan and beginning of the validation phase. One is Fusarium on cereals, which is led by Nibio and Kimen. The test plan has been accepted with some modifications, so the modifications have been done and it's now under review. Fusarium on tomato, led by Nactambo, the test plan has been accepted. So it's to detect Fusarium oxysporum from special Lycopersisty on tomato. Ascocaita on chickpea, it's a project which is managed by GVS, and also the test plan has been accepted. And Botrytis on hemp, it's managed by CREA, and the test plan has always also been accepted. And if you want to know more about these projects, you can register to the Open Seed Health Committee meeting on Friday, where there will be specific presentation on all these projects. And also the last one is Tilachia on wheat, also presented next Friday. And the test plan is under review. It has just been reviewed by the reviewers yesterday. Proficiency test activity. We had a seminar to try to define the gaps between the basic proficiency tests organization and the seed health ones. And we started to draft standard operation procedures to better harmonize between PTs and with the PT committee. So that's just at the draft level, and we have now to submit it to the PT committee. Some proficiency tests have been completed, one on the 3 fungi of flax. We had 25 participants, and here you can see an example of the distribution of rating. Many labs obtained A, and some obtained BMP. It's very easy, let's say, in seed health to obtain BMP because it's when you do a false negative result or a false negative positive result. For example, in an healthy lot, if you detect the targets, the 3 pathogens which were here, it's a false positive, so it's a BMP very fast. And we had a lot of problems like that in this proficiency test, as some labs were confusing other fungi, mainly, for example, Coletotrichum, with the target ones. Indexing of tobamoviruses. We also completed the proficiency test, and here you can see the example of the distribution of rating in 2 groups of laboratories. The proficiency test that we plan for the next period is one on Pseudomonas on PZ on P. It will happen this year. We are preparing the samples at the moment. Ditilencus dipsaci, it's a nematode on alfalfa, also in 2021. And in the coming years, we will have one on Microdochium nivale on wheat, Parastagonospora nodorum also on wheat, and Coletotrichum lindemunitianum on bean. So if you want to participate, don't hesitate to contact the secretariat to register or to have information. We have special projects, and one is a collaboration with between ISTA and NSHS for harmonization and mutual recognition of our guidelines to validate methods. So it's really for method validation, and we compared our different guidelines. And you know that in seed health, we have guidelines for validating a methods which are based on performance criteria, analytical sensitivity, analytical specificity, and so on and so on. So we identified the similarities, and we had really many. The differences, we had very few, and the actions to start to come to an harmonization. So that's under progress. And we said, okay, let's try on a real case. And we plan to do a method validation in common and according to both our guidelines to see really if it's completely feasible. And we will do it on Pseudomonas and soybean. So we already compared the protocols that we obtained in different laboratories and in literature. and we are planning a validation plan. One of our special project is really the production of infected seeds for proficiency test and method validation. It's one of our main problems in seed health. We don't have access to quite big quantities of naturally infected seeds for our projects, and very often that's what makes us have some delay. So we think, okay, we could produce infected seeds by infecting the mother plants and harvesting the infected seeds. So first we identified the number of seeds that we would need for a proficiency test or a method validation. And we are going to find outsourcing companies or laboratories who could do this part for us. And also in my lab, we are going to manage an Fresco project, which is mainly on the main topic to make a sort of network to obtain infected material. So I hope that we will be able also to collaborate with this Fresco project to have access more easy to infected material. One of the new project is an ISTA co-funded project for exploring the methods for detecting insects in seedlots. It's really a topic where we don't have nearly anything in ISTA rules, and it's really an emerging problem and something which is becoming more and more important. So we had several discussions when we had some congresses in the past years, and we decided to set up this project. So it started this year, and it's going until 2023. And we have different partners from Denmark, France, Netherlands, and Brazil. The aim is to explore methods and see which ones are effective for detecting and also monitoring the presence of insects in all their forms, which means the larvae, the nymphs, the adults, and when they are inside or outside the seeds. So first, we identified the needs of laboratories and stakeholders by doing a questionnaire that maybe some of you received and answered. We did also some bibliographic research on existing methods and insects. It allowed us to choose insect and pest and plant combination and the choice of the methods. So we are here at the moment for this project. And now we are starting to collect and prepare seeds samples and also insect samples for testing. And then we will test the different methods on the different insect seed combination. At the end of the project, we plan to do a report and a workshop, but you will also have a presentation on this project in Friday. A big problem of the project of the Seed Health Committee is the ISTA reference pest list. To do a bibliographic research to know if seed is a pathway for pests. So you can find the ISTA reference pest list on the website and you can download it. It's online, it's a free access. We update it continuously, and it's really a tool to support policymakers' decision. We provide scientific information and analysis of the information, and after it's really the NPPOs who make their decision about what they want to regulate or not. So I gave you the link here for the reference pest list. So at the moment we have 11 species that you can see here, which have been analyzed, and we detected if seed is a pathway when it's proved in natural conditions, or if it is not proven. So not proven is really not proven, we have no information, or it's proved artificially in lab conditions, but not in really natural condition of seed transmission. And you can see here the repartition of proven, not proven for each species. And you have a vision of the percentage of seed-borne, seed transmitted, and what different pests are in the pest lists that I'm not going to detail. About training, workshops, and seminar, we had one in South Africa, which was planned in 2021, and it has been cancelled due to the COVID conditions, and also that we have no organizer anymore now in South Africa to organize it. We plan a seed health symposium and a workshop on Leptosphaeros maculans in Canada, and it's Stéphane Brière who is organizing it, so it will be in 2022, in August. And we also plan a seed health online training at the end of 2021 and in 2022, where we will have different sessions for general principles of seed health testing, how to detect bacteria and different methods, how to detect viruses with different methods, how to detect fungi, and how to detect nematodes. So that's for the moment just a project, and we are defining who is going to do that what for the online training. So thank you very much for listening. And just to remind you, the Open Seed Health Committee meeting is this Friday at 1:30 p.m. CEST, and we will talk about all our projects for method validation.
Thank you, Valerie. Maybe we should not forget, you mentioned Terry in the beginning, who we sadly lost, but we had also the seed health seminar 3 weeks ago in 3 stages, and that was also in the honor of Terry to perform these. And these information are all on the YouTube channel. All 3 sections of this seed health seminar, or plant health seminar, which we called it, are available on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much again. I now welcome Enrico Nolli as the chair of the GMO committee. Enrico, we did see your face in Kirk's presentation as well. Now it's up to you to tell us about the activity of the GMO committee. The floor is yours, Enrico.
Thank you very much. I'm going to present the activity of the committee in this past year. I'm Enrico Nolli. I'm from University of Bologna, and I'm the chair of the GMO committee with vice chair René Matisse from France. The committee has at the moment 15 members. We have actually some application from the industry, from industry members that are already collaborating with our activity, especially on the side of proficiency test, which is a very, very critical aspect. The liaison officer is Bertha Killerman, that we thank. The activity of this committee this year has been mainly focused on 4 aspects: on the development and advancement of the handbook on Gmo testing in seeds, on the development of a list of standardized terms regarding Gmo testing. Then we had some collaboration with other organizations, and we worked on proficiency tests. I'm going to report on these 4 aspects. Regarding the handbook on Gmo seed testing, this has been a project now going from several years. We are at the stage where we have advanced draft for some chapters. We could consider that we have a finished chapter, or almost finished chapter, regarding statistical methods. And we are in a good stage of advancement with the 6th chapter regarding ISTA accreditation. So As you can see here, this is the table of contents, where you can see we have the first three sections that are rather general on the description of generalities and objective of GMO testing. Then we have the two core technical sections regarding the analytical approaches and the statistical methods. And then the last two are mainly dealing with the accreditation and quality assurance aspects. We have been active, as we said, mainly on these two parts. Regarding the statistical methods, I'm just going to refer to what has been already pointed out by Jean-Louis and Kirk. Regarding this section, an article has been published on STI on the last issue in October. This article basically it has the content of the GMO chapter in about statistical methods, is largely based on seed calc, and it is aimed to provide guidance to laboratories in designing testing plans for the different objectives and the different testing approaches. It has a very practical and let's say mainly aimed at application. So it's a very handy for laboratories doing this kind of test. And it also provides the tools to analyze results, and how it was pointed out by my colleagues before, it provides tools on how to express results and report results on certificates. So it has a very practical view for laboratory. The other part of the handbook on which we have been most active, it is the section 6 regarding Vista accreditation. Currently, there are two documents basically describing the performance data that needs to be produced by laboratory in seeking accreditation for GMO testing, which I remind is based on the application of the principle of the performance-based approach. So performance data needs to be provided by laboratories for the methods that they want to include in their scope of accreditation. Now, these documents are old. They date back to 2006 when they were developed. So actions are required, and so in this section of the handbook, we have as aim to update these documents and to integrate, to harmonize them in a wider framework to provide guidance to laboratories in the process of gaining or maintaining accreditation. In this section, we are also emphasizing critical aspects, as also was pointed out during the statistic committee report regarding the maximum group size, for example, which is a very, very critical aspect to be taken into account, and also on the assessment of error rate. Another aim is in re-elaborating this document is to reduce the workload for laboratories that in some cases it is just excessive, it is discouraging laboratories, and also on define minimum sets of performance data that need to be produced by a laboratory when a laboratory is changing the strategies or the procedure or a piece of equipment for a method. So what a laboratory has to do in order to provide evidence of its performance. And the last but very important aspect that we are dealing in this section is to harmonize the terms that describe the scope of accreditation. So a work has been done within this working group to describe in a very clean and precise way what are the testing objectives in GMO testing, the testing approaches that can be used, and also the testing technologies. And these definitions, these terms, general terms that describe the scope of accreditation will have been modified, let's say, with respect to what is in the ISTA rules at the moment. So we will have a proposal for amendments to Chapter 19 regarding these terms that will need to be prepared by the end of the year and to be presented at the next meeting in 2022. In order to have harmonization between the handbook and the rules. Again, who will benefit for the standardization of GMO terms? Laboratories will benefit because it will agreed terms, standardized terms will have to clarify the accreditation for a method. And also the accreditation department of ISTA will benefit for this because it will be more clear what is the content of an application for accreditation of a new method into the scope of a given laboratory and what needs to be checked at the site of auditing, and also which proficiency test will be obligatory for any given laboratory. And also on the side of the ISTA stakeholders to have standardized terms describing the scope of accreditation of individual laboratories will help to make more transparent and more uniform to the stakeholders what are the competences of each single laboratory. Where is the problem with the terms in GMO testing? Basically, we can show this example where we can have problems of homonyms. That means that the same term in different laboratories is used to indicate different things. Okay? Or on the opposite side, we can have synonyms. That means we use different terms in different laboratories, maybe to indicate the same thing. So this harmonization is necessary. There are online several databases by international organization, private organization that deal with GMO. Each one has his own purpose, his own aim, but there is no harmonization. At least there has not been up to now harmonization on terms regarding, for example, genetic elements. And also ISTA needs a uniform system to harmonize this aspect. And this system for ISTA also should be based on internationally based terminology. So in the last few years, some organizations have started, let's say, harmonizing their ways to indicate proteins or genetic elements in their databases. And at the same time, in the working committee that is dealing with aspect in the GMO, we have decided to adopt the system that is adopted by Biosafety Clearinghouse and the Eugenius database. It seems the most internationally accepted, the most rigorous in describing GMO elements.
Just on rigorous, you are a little bit over time now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I finish up with this. This system is based on a structured vocabulary of using terms, where each element is described by a prefix that indicates the type of element, the name of the element, and then the source, the origin of the organism that is donor. This system has been adopted. We have built a database collecting the information from the online databases, and with the terms that we have collected, we have made a prototype for an application, a document for an application for accreditation, where these terms are inserted in pull-down menus to describe the scope of accreditation of a laboratory. So this will be a tool that will be discussed, made more accurate, and provided to the ISTA. The last aspect, I skipped this, which is the collaboration with ISO that was described also by the statistical committee. The last thing is proficiency test, and on proficiency test, a lot of work has been done in order to review documents, especially to make them suitable for the problems that we have experienced in the past with the shipment of samples. So a huge amount of work has been done in this area. We had a lot of collaboration from the industry and the biological material providers and the sample preparation labs that have accepted these new procedures. So a lot of thanks to Ray and Benoit Maes from the side of the industry, to Eurofins as a sample preparation lab. A big thank, a big acknowledgement to Nadine, that from the Secretariat is dealing with this difficult topic. The last thing is the GMO Proficiency Test. We have started, we got 41 applications for the PT23 on soybeans. It will have 2 events. It will be made of 8 samples of 1,000 seeds each. The expected shipment is by the end of August, and we hope to get preliminary results from the Secretariat on the 1st of December. Thank you. Thanks to everybody in the committee for their contribution, and thank you all for your attention, and excuse me for this small delay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enrico. And I would like to remind you, if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer box. We will have a break after the next presentation, which will be the Tetrazolium Committee and Stephanie Kramer Stephanie, you may start with your presentation, and after that we will have a short discussion round. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes,
So,
Stephanie.
okay. I'd like to present you the work of the Tetrazolium Committee. My name is Stephanie Kramer. I'm the current chair of the Tetrazolium Committee. Oops, now it does not move. I cannot go to the next slide. Yeah, now here you can see the composition of our committee. At the moment we are 14 members, so still one place is vacant. Rules development, there was no introduction of a new species and no rules changes in 2020. Publications, the working sheets on Tetrazolium testing volume 2 is already almost ready. It includes now about 190 species. We had several changes and corrections, and also several new species were included. And it will be available online. Workshop in 2020 we had the plan was to have 3 workshops, but due to the pandemic situation all of them were postponed, and for the moment we have no plan how when we will continue with on-site workshops. We have under discussion at the moment to have a workshop on Tetrazolium testing and equilibrium relative humidity determination for wild species in flowers in an online version. But there are a lot of things to think about. How can we organize this? For example, Tetrazolium testing needs some practical work, or if you teach this, you need some practical work. So one idea could be that we send the participants the samples before the workshop starts, and they can work on it, and we make the evaluation and working steps together. But for the moment, we don't know how to realize this. We will see. Proficiency tests. Once a year, Tetrazolium testing is included in the PTs. So PT 23 was the Tetrazolium test on allium porum. Didier explained the results yesterday. In 21, we will have Medicago melilotus for Tetrazolium testing, and in 22 we will have Lolium per annum. Questions to the committee. You can see we got questions from all over the world. So most of them are dealing with the morphological aspects of the seed. So how the question is, how can we prepare the species? Interesting was that there was also one about the chemical aspect or technical aspect of dealing with Tetrazolium. So, and the last 2 questions have had the background of the wild species. So I'd like to thank the members of my committee and also the team of the ISTA Secretariat, and also thank you for your attention. Hello?
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Stephanie, for your presentation. I've got a few questions up here, so if you can all join again, then we could look at it. First question goes directly to you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
As you were just presenting. And it is, in the Tetrazolium staining patterns, will there be any difference between dormant seed of a crop and the non-dormant seed of the same crop? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. Normally not. The staining behavior will be, let me say, almost the same. Experienced people can see a difference between the staining. So sometimes it's a little bit more orange or lighter red, the dormant seed. But yeah, you will not see this in all species. Sometimes it happens in several species. Yeah, I hope this is enough answer.
Yeah, thank you very much. And for Valerie, how can ISTA support the document and the confident of DAO plant quarantine country to allow the positive sample for PT test?
I'm not sure it's really to the TDALS committee to answer that. Maybe we can see that at the ISTA level. What we try is to ask the participating labs to send us all their requirements for permits, and we try to provide the permits. I know that some laboratories have quarantine problems, but the thing is that we are circulating infected material, infected or contaminated, but still infected material by one pest. So yeah, maybe if there are some very difficult situation in countries, I don't know, maybe we could try to have some discussions with the NPPOs to explain our goal, and that the seeds are not going to be planted. It's not seed for planting, it's just seed for testing.
Yes, and what we can also say maybe is that you may contact your designated authorities and make clear for which purpose it is that you have to import it. And if there's a necessity for us to talk, then we will try to arrange meetings with your DAs. Maybe that is helpful. And the last one, also due to the timing, also to the, I've got also no others in the moment. In the proficiency tests and CTELs again, among the fungal, bacterial and virus diseases, conformity is better in which category? So it's more in fungal, bacterial, viruses. And this will give an idea of the ease with which labs are able to identify the pathogens and assesses the infection levels.
I think it's easier in bacteria and viruses, mainly viruses when it's an ELISA or it's an indexing biological test. It's a quite easy test, so results are better. And I think where we see the more difficulties is in fungi, because it's a morphological identification. So you need a lot of experience to differentiate one fungus from another one.
Okay, thank you very much. That is everything which I have as questions. Thank you very much. And we open, in that case, the second part of the afternoon with a new panel. And I see that Alison is getting ready She was ready yesterday for Seed Science Advisory Group, but today is for bigger. And Alison, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Is everybody hearing me all right? Yeah? Do you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, good. Fine.
Yes.
We assume the others do then as well, Alison.
Okay. Well, greetings, everybody, from Northeast Scotland, where I'm glad that the sea mist has finally lifted, so we're getting a lovely summer day. I'm going to report on the things that we've been doing between 2020 and 2021. And I'm just going to briefly run through the TCOM members and look at the work we've done on adding species to validated tests, talk about the ISTA special project and our involvement in proficiency tests. Well, our committee membership hasn't changed. It's a full committee. And so we range from members in the Far East, in Taiwan, China and Japan, through India, Iran, Europe, through to the United States, Canada, and South America. Now, the work we've done on adding species to validated tests has really focused on two species, radical emergence and conductivity. For radical emergence, we organized comparative tests for three species. First of all, we had one set up for onion, Allium cepa. The organizers were Hula Ilby and Dr. Jagadish. And Tim Leffler had arranged for us to get seed from Bayer and had selected a range of seed lots. But then, having selected the seed lots, there were a lot of problems with shipping the seeds for many of the lots of selected. And that was due to their phytoeligibility for shipping despite additional phytosanitary tests. So basically, to summarize, Julia and Dr. Jagadish didn't get any seed, but now Tim, although he's retired from Bayer, is contacting other seed companies to try to arrange for seed lots. Probably taking a different approach in this case, rather than selecting seed lots first, we're going to look at a wide range of seeds to identify their compatibility for shipping and then select from within those for the comparative test. Our other comparative tests were focusing on Avina sativa and Elymus nutans. And this was based on work done by our member in China, Yanrong Wang. And she sent off seeds of both species to participants in December 2019. I'm going to report on the work that the comparative test did on Avina, but due to COVID restrictions, the work on Elymus was delayed, and we eventually decided that the seed lots might no longer be suitable, so we've abandoned any work on Elymus and we'll have to rearrange that. We've also had a comparative test on conductivity test, in this case being organized to examine the repeatability in Avina sativa. So if we start off looking at the work on radical emergence with Avina, Yanrong from China organized the test, and we had the 5 participants, Gillian from Scotland, Carey from Canada, Marilyn in France, Pei-Sheng Mao from China, and Yanrong herself. All are, 4 of them are members of the bigger committee. Pei-Sheng Mao is at the Beijing ISTA lab. The directions that they were given was to test 6 seed lots, all of which had a commercially acceptable high germination. And they had to carry out their normal germination method for BP at 20 degrees using 4 × 50 seeds. And if it was possible, the labs were asked to repeat the test in both the light, or with the light conditions, and in the dark. And they had to do an RE count, a radical emergence count, at 72 hours. So here we have the results. We have our 6 samples here and our 5 labs. Now, straight away, if you look at the tolerance among the labs, there's no tolerance in the data. If we look at the overall mean for each lab, you can immediately see why. We have two labs, lab 5 and lab 3, with a high of around 70% RE, whereas the other 3 labs have a mean RE of between 35 and 45. We originally thought that this might be due to the timing at which the labs did the test, because due to COVID restrictions, it was much longer than we would normally expect. But the timing could not explain the differences, because these 2 labs did the test after June, and these 3 labs, with again different results, did the test in February. So clearly the timing of the test did not explain this difference. So we had to say, well, why was there poor repeatability? Well, first of all, we wondered about temperature, because we have quite precise temperature requirements, but we had regular recording of temperature from 4 labs, which met the very precise requirements. And since those labs showed some differences in final results, temperature clearly was not the reason. Could it be that the test gave you different results in the light compared to the dark? Well, we looked at 3 labs who conducted the test in both light and dark conditions, but there's no significant effect on radical emergence. So that left us to look at the germination medium. And there were 3 kinds of between paper methods used. One, which we see here, was where we called CP, which is where the seeds were loosely covered with germination paper. We had the rolled paper towel method, and we had pleated paper. So perhaps this explained the differences. So one lab did an additional test on the 6 samples and compared the results of pleated paper with that of the rolled paper towels. And you can see that there's no significant difference between these 2 methods. So that led us to start looking at the covered method, where you have the seeds loosely covered. And here we looked at the imbibition rate of the seeds and the radical emergence. So here we've got the imbibition rate after 12, 24, 36, and 52 hours, which is the percentage weight increase. And I've highlighted the covered paper method in red. Now, if we look at perhaps first of all the radical emergence result, you can see in each case the covered is lower radical emergence than the other 2 methods, which are very similar. In fact, the covered paper is significantly lower. And if you look at the percentage weight increase at each time, in almost every instance, the covered paper method has a lower water uptake than the rolled paper towel or the pleated paper method. So this leads us to think that if the water uptake in the covered method was much slower, and therefore this is what resulted in the lower radical emergence values for 3 of the labs. And so it's clear for us now that for Avina, we can't say use your normal germination method. We must specify the germination medium clearly. This is something we have actually done with all our other radical emergence tests for other species. And the work we've done with Avina really emphasizes the need for this. Now, if I turn to the work on electrical conductivity in the comparative test with Avina, this is based on work that Jan Rong did. And I've just illustrated here the relationship she found between the conductivity and the field emergence here, of the different seed lots. And you can see there's those lots that have a low conductivity here give you a higher emergence than these lots here. Now, I should perhaps emphasize that although it looks you've got 2 clear groups, these are all the same variety, so we don't have a varietal influence. And the work that Jan Rong did initially. So Jan Rong again organized this comparative test with the same participants. They were in fact the same seeds as we used before. So they were testing 6 seed lots with commercially acceptable germination, and they followed the general conductivity directions, which are in the ISTA rules, testing conductivity at 20 degrees. In this case, they used 4 replicates of 50 seeds in 150 mils of water, and they measured conductivity after 24 hours. Now here we've got the 6 seed samples again, the conductivity in the 5 labs. The overall mean indicates clearly that these 2 apparently are higher vigor. They've got lower conductivity, therefore would have higher vigor. And there was, with one exception, there was good tolerance between the labs. However, alarm bells rang when we looked at these 2 seed lots here, which apparently with a lower conductivity should have higher vigor, because these 2 lots actually have a lower normal germination. And with this lower normal germination, we would normally expect a higher conductivity. So we thought perhaps this was a varietal effect. Unfortunately, the source of the seed doesn't have any record of the varieties, so we can't check that from this data. The other possibility is that there's an imbibition effect. Maybe these 2 seed lots are imbibing more slowly, and that results in a lower conductivity. Since leakage from the seeds is a purely physical effect, if they're imbibing more slowly, they would have a lower conductivity. So that is another comparative test which leaves us with more questions to answer. Now, in terms of other species, we've also been working on progress towards validation in RE test. The species we've been working on, Karina in Argentina has been working on soybean. Her test development is in progress. I think she's identified some conditions which she thinks might be appropriate to identify bigger differences, but she's doing a further field trial to test further the relationship between field emergence and radical emergence in the conditions she's identified. Julia in Turkey is working with her students on 3 species, spinach, sweet corn and dill, and she's in the process of determining the conditions for radical emergence. Simon Goertz in Germany is working on barley. He tells me that the RE conditions he's identified look promising. He's currently doing field emergence comparisons to relate to the radical emergence results. And he's also interested in developing an approach to automated detection of the radical. Now that brings us to the ISTA special project that the bigger committee has been doing in collaboration with the Germination Committee. The title of our project is the development of rapid tests to predict both germination and vigor, and the potential of those rapid tests for automation using image analysis. The participants have been Sylvie Ducorneau, Marie-Hélène Wagner, and Audrey Dupont from Gervais, Takashi Shinohara from Tokyo University of Agriculture, who did the first 6 months of work in the project while he was on sabbatical at Gervais. There's myself and Stan Matthews from Aberdeen. And after Takashi finished his work, Alina Fetchu, who's a master's student in Université Angers, worked on the project. The project is focused on vegetable brassica species. 2 of them are of general interest, which is our cauliflower and cabbage, and 3 are of specific interest in Asia. This reflects Takashi's interests. That's mustard, Japanese radish, and Chinese cabbage. In each case, we've worked on 4 commercial seed lots of 3 varieties for each species. Now for vigor, our aims in the project are to determine whether an early count of radical emergence can predict vigor in all 5 species, and to see whether it's the same timing of RE. And also to investigate whether both a manual count and an automated count using image analysis will reveal the same bigger differences. For conductivity, we aim to examine whether conductivity can reveal differences, but in addition to see if we can use a shorter conductivity measurement than our usual 24 hours as a bigger test. So what we've done practically is first of all to test the initial seed quality, looking at the lab germination at 2030, where we've had assistance from the Gervais Germination Laboratory, and to test vigor using the validated CD test. We then assessed radical emergence, both manually at the alternating 2030, and using two methods of image analysis, RGB image analysis and multispectral imaging. These have been conducted at 20 degrees. Now, if we're doing anything with vigor, we have to have a practical expression of vigor to relate to any vigor test results. So we have done field and glasshouse emergence of all the seed lots, field emergence of 4 of the 5 species, glasshouse emergence of 2 of the species, and we looked at the rate of emergence, final emergence, and the seedling height in the glasshouse. Now, I should say that I'm going to talk a little bit now about what we found out for vigor. I should tell you that from the point of view of the Germination Committee, we have looked at the radical emergence in these 2 sets of conditions and related that to initial laboratory germination. But I'm not going to actually talk about that data just now. Now, in terms of the results, I'm just giving you a flavour of them because we're currently preparing data for publication and we don't want to compromise our ability to publish by publishing it online at the moment. So what we have found is that in terms of vigor, radical emergence predicts the rate of emergence and also the final emergence in the field. It can predict the rate of emergence and seedling size in glasshouse, although not the final emergence, because emergence in the glasshouse tends to be very high because the conditions are good. It predicts vigor at both germination temperatures, but the timing of counts differs, and the same vigor differences are revealed by radical emergence as in the validated controlled deterioration test. So we're convinced that the bigger differences they're revealing are real ones. And then finally, the manual counts that we've done, along with the automated counts, predict the same bigger differences. Now, we're not getting exactly the same data, which we couldn't really expect because the actual germination conditions using the RGB image analysis and the multispectral imaging cannot be exactly the same as when we're doing the manual counts. Vigor is very much a relative expression of quality. We can't say, like we do in germination, that we have a 90% or an 80% germination, and that is our final expression. Vigor is relative. So the differences we see in vigor assessed manually are the same as those we see using both methods of image analysis. Now we turn to our involvement in proficiency tests. We had a proficiency test with conductivity with Phaseolus vulgaris, where, as we typically expect, accredited labs showed better performance than voluntary labs. But this gave us a similar position to, or similar data, what has been seen in other proficiency tests. There's another proficiency test in progress for radical emergence on maize. That is in progress. Now, in preparation for that, we had actually given some attention to the identification of radical emergence in maize. So we had an introduction to the ISTA rules in 2021 to clarify the assessment of radical emergence, that is the production of a 2 millimeter radical. And the clarification was that the radical includes parts of the radical that are within the coleorizer, as well as those that have emerged through it. And you can illustrate that here, where we've got 4 seeds, which look very different, but in each case, the radical is 2 millimeters long, whether it is within the coleorizer, as it is here, here, and here, or whether it is emerged through the coleorizer, as here. In this case, we don't have radical emergence, because we don't have emergence of the coleorizer or the radical. That summarizes the work that we have achieved.
May I remind you on the time? Thank you.
Yes, last slide. And finally, I'd like to say a special thank you to the bigger committee, to the Germination Committee for collaborating with us, and particularly to the Chavez team in the special project, who we've really enjoyed working with. To also thank the Chavez Germination Laboratory for their help in the special project, because there are a very large number of germination tests to do at the beginning, and their assistance with these was great. And finally, to Nadine and Andrea at the Secretariat for their unfailing support. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Alison. And I may remind you again on putting questions in the question and answer box. The next presenter is Ana Laura Vicario. She's presenting as chair of the Variety Committee. Ana Laura, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andreas. Good morning to everyone, or good afternoon, good evening. I will be presenting the Variety Committee, the work done during 2020-2021. You know that, let's see, okay. You know that we have members spanning the world. Most of our members are in Europe, but we have members in India, in Asia, and in the Americas. This year we receive a new member from Spain, Ana Patricia Fernandez Getino, and last year we received a new member from Canada, Marie-Claude Gagnon. This year we said goodbye to Marie-José Coté, who was a very active member during all these years. She left last May, and we also, Daniel Perry will be retiring in June 30 this year. Okay, I'm going to show you here a timeline, agenda of the work we have been done during the last years in relation to the Variety Committee. During the last 3 or 4 years, we were working hard on designing a proficiency test for DNA-based methods, especially on wheat, in the detection of annual types in perennial regress varieties, and in the incorporation of new crops for DNA-based methods and on pea, oat, and barley. Now I am going to show you the progress we have in all those 3 projects. Okay, as Jean-Louis mentioned before when he was presenting the statistical committee, they collaborated with us with the data analysis of the results of the second round of the comparative test for the new crops. This is a binary data, ISTA format for presenting data, for presenting the results of the comparative test. They analyzed the allele results agreement for a given variety, as you see here in blue, and also the allele results agreement across varieties for a given allele. The comparisons are, for example, lab 1 to lab 2, lab 1 to lab 3, lab 1 to lab 4, and so on. So it's a kind of long list of results that I'm not going to show in detail, just to tell you how this statistical analysis is done. For example, in this case, we have a total of 41 alleles from laboratory 1 and 2. They provided results agreement results zeros for 30 alleles and 1 for 6. And if we make the calculation, the overall percentage agreement is 87.8. But this agreement could be due by chance, so we have to calculate if this is right or not. The most popular measure that takes into account the possible chance of agreement between two laboratories is this coefficient called Cohen's kappa. In this case, we make different calculations, and from a number of 87.8, we can end up in a number of 0.63. And here you have an example on how it is measured. It's a different way of measure the probabilities of getting the same allele when comparing two labs. And here we see that if we use the categories defined by Landis and Koch, we can specify or interpret the agreement between two laboratories when analyzing the alleles they obtain in the test. In the case of it is from 1 to 0.81, you have almost perfect agreement. If you have 0.8 to 0.61 is substantial agreement, and so on, and until you have no agreement. This is an example of a table of results provided by the Statistical Committee, where you can see the comparison between two labs. In this example, laboratory 5 to 6, and see here the range from 1 to 0.6 approximately, but here you have a range from 1 to 0.8, and see that most of the agreements fall in this range, which is this one, almost perfect agreement for the allele result agreement for a given variety here. So we can conclude, after all the analysis, we could conclude that given this result, it is enough evidence for validating the methods. This analysis was done for P and Oecd, which is a project led by Marie-José Coté. And this means that most of the results, laboratory to laboratory comparison, fall in the range of 0.8 to 1, which indicates that there is good agreement among laboratories when analyzing these markers, and that these agreements are not due to random, not by chance, but because of the possibility of reproducing data from these markers by participating laboratories. The other crop we were working with during these years was barley. This is a project led by Verena Peterseil. In this case, the data is already obtained, but the analysis is pending due to barley was analyzed by individual kernel and to bulk samples, so the data analysis is taking longer, and we have to discuss some things on this with the Statistical Committee yet. The other project we were running this year is the detection of annual types in perennial regress varieties. This is a project now led by Giovanni Lopez from Netherlands. You may remember from last year that we said that the association between the annual marker we were testing before and the growth habits was incomplete, and that the estimates vary depending on which varieties were used as the calibrator. So now we engaged with people at the USDA. They are sequencing regress genomes for annual and perennial varieties, looking for SNP markers. So we now have a new project for testing these markers. We hope to have 5 markers markers to be tested on first the variety used in the validation before the BDI validation, and then a new set of varieties representing as much as possible the variability worldwide. The product of this project will be a validation document in accordance with the Vista procedure. This test has 3 trials. During the first trial, we hope to run this first trial during June and July. There will be 1 laboratory participating, testing 5 annual markers. And trial 1 will be in August, September. We invited 3-4 labs to participate in this round for testing again 5 annual markers in the range of contamination levels from 0 to 7%. And the second trial will be only in a few of the markers selected before. We hope to have at least 2. And this will be run during September, October with the laboratories in the first trial and some new ones. We are also designing a proficiency test especially for wheat, but it is for DNA-based tests really. You know, we have 3 laboratories already accredited for performing DNA-based tests in Triticum and Sea mice. We launched PT0. It is already sent to laboratories. We have 5 participating laboratories, 3 from 3 accredited labs and 2 laboratories willing to evaluate their performance. You know that this PT0 is mandatory for accredited laboratories. We sent out a set of 6 varieties that laboratories should analyze with 8 microsatellite with markers, and we also include 2 varieties as a control and also their microsatellite profile. We hope to finalize this test by the end of June. This is PT0 because this is a kind of test as how this is going to work and how are we going to rate the laboratories. The project leader is now Daniel Perry from Canada. We prepare with the help of the statistical committee this rating system for PT evaluation, for rating the laboratories after the PT evaluation. As I said, this is PT0, no 1, because we don't want to, this is a test and how we can rate if this works okay or we have to adjust something, so we don't have to make a final opinion of the performance of the lab based only on this proficiency test. We finally have made a decision on how to rate the labs in the considering the percentage of varieties wrongly rated and the percentage of markers with a wrong result. We have made a decision on this percentage and how to rate them, and we prepare a spreadsheet where we can upload the results of the proficiency test and make all these calculations. I would like to thank all the members who collaborate with the work of the Variety Committee, especially the CT leaders, Marie Jose Cote and Verena Peterseil, the Lolium project leader, Giovanni Lopez, the PT leader and Vice Chair, Daniel Perry, for their collaboration to achieve the Variety Committee goals and ISTA goals. And also would like to thank the Statistical Committee for data analysis, and they're always collaborating with us. Of course, also I would like to thank Nadine and the ISTA Secretariat in general. A special thanks to Marie Jose, who happily retired last May and extensively collaborated with the committee goals during all the years she shared with us the membership. Good luck to her, and I'd like to welcome our 2 new members since 2020 and 2021. And especially I want to thank Daniel Perry, that he will be retiring by the end of the month. I have to say that he made most, not to say all, of the goals of the committee come true since 2007, when we started the Variety Committee activities again. There you have a picture of us in 2007. We were so young at that moment. I wish him all the best in his new moment in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ana Laura, for the informative presentation. I welcome now Elisa Vera from Brazil for the Forestry and Shrub Committee presentation. Lisa, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see the screen.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. Hi, everyone. I'm Elisa Vieira, the chair of the Forestry and Shrub Seed Committee, and I will be presenting our activities of the last year and of this year. The committee, currently the committee has 13 members, 2 from North America, another 2 from South America, 8 from Europe, and 1 from Asia. I can say that the committee is well represented around the world. In the last year, we have good and long talks, and the main subject was which should be the committee activities beyond the validation tests. For these validation tests, we have 2 species to be worked. The first one is Jatropha curcas, and it's in my responsibility. And due to the pandemic situation and the restrictions, I couldn't work with it the last year and until now. But we have 4 laboratories interested in participating in these validation tests. The first one is the one where I work in Embrapa Forest, and the other 3 are British Columbia Tree Seed Center in Canada, the GEVS National Seed Testing Station in France, and the Croatian Forest Research Institute in Croatia. These 3 laboratories are of committee members. The second species to be worked is Azadiracta indica, and it is a request of our committee member from India. As the most part of the committee members were new, we spent a time knowing each other, knowing the interest areas of each other. And we did a query last year, and the most part of the members has interest in germination test, quick tests, and seed storage, abnormal germinants, seed pathology, and seed vigor. The other areas, we have few members interested in it. Another activity was the conclusion of the validation study for agar as a substrate for the Pinus sylvestre germination test. This validation study was already mentioned for other committees in this meeting, and it was already published. And it's important to say that one of our members, Dr. Madalena Beza from Poland, had an active participation in this validation study. Now, agar can be recommended as a substrate for Pinus sylvestre germination in the Easter rooms. Another activity was the release of the printed version of the book Guide to Amazonian Fruits, Seeds and Seedlings. Among the authors, we have Isolde Ferraz, who is a member of the FTS committee. And we decided to ask ISTA about its expectations from the FTS-Com. And with this conversation, we decided to review the Tree and Shrub Seed Handbook that is from 1991. It's an old handbook, and it's interesting to do an update of it. This project will be led by Victor Vancos from the US, who is the vice chair of this committee. Another activity was the participation of Eduardo Vicente in the OECD Forest Seed and Plant Scheme meeting that occurred in May of this year. Eduardo is the Eastern representative in the OECD Forest Scheme. Among the subjects discussed in this meeting, two of them are of ISTA interest. The first one was that the ISTA decided to play the role of the observer organization in the elaboration of the guideline for seedlot mixing. Another topic was the discussion of the future of OECD ISTA Handbook website. This website already exists, but a lot of information is missing. And the OECD decided to give a final decision of this website until September of 2021. Here you can see the screen of this website and the address of the website. Finally, I'd like to thank all the FTS committee members. The most part of it are very active. They are helping me a lot all the time. And I see they are very committed professionals, and thank you a lot. You have been great. I would like to thank the Secretariat, mainly Andreas, Nadine, and Andrea, who is always receiving and answering my emails. And a special thanks I would like to give to Steve Jones, for his attention with the Forestry Committee, and now he beyond being the ISTA president, he is also the liaison officer of the FTS Committee. To all these people, I would like to thank you a lot in my mother language, Portuguese. Muito obrigada. And thank you for your attention.
Muito obrigado, Elisa, also from our side for the nice presentation. And yes, it is a pleasure to work with you also in the forest scheme of the OECD, where I am partly as a guest together with our colleague Eduardo. I welcome now the next presenter. It is Rujing Wang from the Purity Committee. Rujing, you are next presenting, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. So first I want to make sure, can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. I need to hide this one. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. So I'm Rojing Wang, current chair for Purity Committee. So I'm just going to give a very short presentation about committee work. So here, as every other technical committee, so we have a we have 15 members in our committee. Okay, make sure. Okay. Probably better turn off my screen. Okay. So we have 15 members in our committee. So that is a full member. So last year we have one member resigned from India due to work change. And now we have a new member from Bangladesh. And also we have a diverse group, people from different countries and have different expertise in our committee. So that we deliver all our programs for this committee. And also we have the Ecom liaison. Craig McGill is our Ecom liaison. So he definitely helped a lot coordination between the technical committee and Ecom for our program deliver. So for Purity Committee, our main responsibility for rule is the rule are Chapter 3, Purity Analysis, Chapter 4, Determination of Other Seed by Number, Chapter 10, Southern Seed Weight Determination, Chapter 11, Testing Coded Seed, and Chapter 14, X-ray Test. So this last chapter also being used by other technical committee. So you can say Purity Committee have many, we have many programs or questions related to this rule because so many chapter is under Purity Committee. Purity Committee routine program delivery have a few areas. So I'm just specify here. So one is related to testing need. We have some publications to help test and also have training programs so that routinely being delivered. So one of our publication is the pure seed definition, and it's the universal list. So it's the pure seed definition that publication a few years ago. It's also need to be have a further revision. And the other publication is the universal list. So you can see the website. They're not just a list, and also have some minimum information about each species identification morphological feature being listed in that is the website. So for the training, routinely we deliver since 2017 seed mixture round. So the seed mixture round means so we have a different plant species mixed together and delivered along PT panels. So the purpose of that is not for the rating, but for the exercise. People can do some exercise, do identifications, and also I know many of the labs keep the seed mixtures as their way to collecting different species from different parts of the world. So now we delivered up to this year is around 10. So a purity committee has taken over the seed mixture exercise since 2017. We delivered 3 rounds. Then the other training is workshop. The purity workshop, sometimes we have individual purity workshop, and sometimes we have a combination with other technical committee to deliver purity workshop. And we also, in 2017, purity committee delivered a seed ID workshop. In 2020, last year, until now, due to the pandemic, some of the workshop planned was delayed. So one of the workshop is combination with the germination committee to deliver germination and purity workshop in Ukraine, but that was delayed. And we also actually planned to deliver first different language workshop using Spanish for seed ID workshop. So that will be delayed as well. So here we show is 2020, we delivered the seed ID exercise is seed mixture. So this one was prepared by a lab in Romania. So the organizer is Elena Nicola and Avina Trizim, and also a lab from Denmark, Dot Patterson, provided some specimen for this mixture. So this round, we delivered 180 seed mixture samples around the world with PT panel PT23. So here are some examples of the seed in the mixture. And also the picture was generated by the organizer. So people can reference the picture and the answer sheet and the specimen and do some exercise of ID. And purity committee also, one of the big task is to working on rule proposals. So in 2020 to 2021, we worked on 7 proposals and we submitted 4. After the discussion, 4 was submitted to the rule committee, and others are continue in discussion. So currently in 2021 to 2022, we are working on potential rule proposal on soil test. So the purpose of that is to get some request from Ecom, want to standardize or clarify what are soil particles and their reporting method. The other one is we responding to ISTA members' questions and sometimes from auditors as well about a reduced test still in discussion. And the other one we were also working on is a purity retest reporting and anemometer for small seeded grass. So another routine work for purity committee is to answer questions from ISTA members, from other ISTA technical committees, and also sometimes from ISTA auditors. So this figure to show routinely purity committee got questions from those sources, around 20 to 30 questions around the world. So the main questions have different types. The first type is a clarification or interpretation of ISTA rules. in those chapters I listed before. So that is one type of the question. Is the member or is the lab have some questions about is the rules, how to interpret it, how to apply in their special situations. Second type of the question would be seed identification inquiry. So I gave some examples. People send us photos. Then within the committee and their associated laboratory, and we sometimes can provide some advice on what kind of species. And the other one is advice. Some people do some project or special situation. They would like to have some advice on how to proceed their work based on ISTA rules or some testing method. So this ongoing question and answers start from 2019. Purity Committee have a process to deliver the answers. Usually it's not come from one person. It's usually have a discussion within the committee, and we want to make sure the answer is relatively have same consent. Then we send back to the people who have those inquiries. So sometimes the answer could be a little bit delayed, but we would like to get it right rather than in a hurry. The next thing we are continue work on. So the program is in our working group program of 2019 to 2022 is keep working on publications. So one of the publication is seed feature of tropical species. So this one is I work with the non-member, our former Purity Committee member, Marianne Alves. Although she is not a member, but she could work on the as a working group member, work on this. So it's close to the publication. However, due to the process and the impact of COVID, it was delayed. Then the other publication we are working on, based on over many years of people's question, we may think about publish some frequently asked questions. And we also want to have a based on many requests to provide advice on seed ID. We will try to collect some seed ID references to have a list of inventory of seed ID references. So we keep working on it. It hasn't have final product yet. The other work plan we are working on is chapter revisions. So 2 chapters and one I mentioned before, pure seed definition revision is in our working program. So chapter 11 and chapter 14 are pretty old. So we're going to update and make some revisions. If necessary, some rule proposals could come out from those 2 chapter revisions. And also chapter 14, we organized a working group from 3 technical committees, ATC, Advanced Technology Committee, and Forest Shrub Committee as well. Purity also have 3 projects we are involved with ISTA funded special project. So the first one is I'm leading is ISTA 19-1 is to assess available technology of imaging and image analysis for other seed determination, purity analysis, and germination. So this one in collaboration with Germination Committee. And next one is we just got approved last year is ISTA 22. So we try to develop some digital reference information for other seed determination. So this one is mainly work for ISTA universalist species to develop more interactive training materials. And the other project is 19-2 is we participate. We have purity member participated in this project. It's for multiple spectrum imaging for Oecd. So here I'm just give very brief summary of one of the project is the 19-1 is we conducted survey to seed testing laboratory and technology providers. Potentially it can be used for imaging analysis and auto identification or evaluation of seedling. So in this survey, due to the, I still complain about the COVID, so the participation from the lab, we have 17 lab participated. So it's lower than anticipated participation. However, I believe those lab who participated in the survey, they will be very interested. They potentially very interested in new technology application. So this table just showed the need from testing lab. What are the potentially application for those advanced technology? So the higher rate for the need for identification for application of new technology, such as AI image analysis from the lab is classification, the number one, the weight, highest weight, 4.75 out of 5.
I think just for your information, you overrun your time a little bit.
Okay, I will quick. So is very high is a seedling classification. However, the survey from the technology provider, they are more work on other application. So we can see the difference between the need and the manufacturer. So the coordination between the need and technology developer could have a potential to continue communicate. And for project 22, we have 2 projects we will start. So here I just want to say we welcome anybody who interested in to be one of the author could join the project, not just the committee member. So many people can participate as an author. So also I would like to indicate in June 7th, we're going to have an open meeting. So any questions or more detailed information will be delivered in the open meeting. So people could have more understanding or about the project details. Welcome everybody to join our open meeting in June 7th for more detail of those projects in Purity Committee. So sorry for take longer time. Thanks everybody's attention, and also I would like to acknowledge all Purity members who actively contribute to each programs. So that end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We are looking forward to some more questions maybe. And what I would like to ask now, last but not least, is the chair of the Rules Committee, Ernest Allen, to present the work of the Rules Committee. Ernest, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andreas. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and in a second you'll be able to see my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Can you see my screen, Andreas?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not in the presentation mode, but we saw that yesterday. It may not work in presentation mode in that way.
It's not in presentation mode. Okay, give me 1 second, okay? What about now, Andreas?
It didn't change. You don't have to try it. If it's in this mode, it works. People can see, and that's the most important thing. And that's better.
Okay, great. Sounds good. All right.
Okay.
So ISTA's mission is to develop, adopt, publish, and promote standard procedures for international seed testing. ISTA relies on its TCOMs to accomplish this work for them. ISTA actually relies on members with subject matter expertise to work with one or more of its specialized technical committees. These committees are led by chairs who are dedicated to ensuring that the chapters within their areas of expertise are maintained using the most applicable scientific knowledge available. These technical committees also regularly perform comparative studies and surveys. They organize symposia, seminars, and workshops, and they answer questions from those who use the ISTA rules throughout the year. All of these tasks are conducted to promote ISTA's vision of uniformity in seed quality evaluation worldwide. The leaders that manage these important groups are listed on this next slide. These individuals represent the 20 technical committees and working groups as their chairs. They are the people that Sue and I rely on to help answer difficult and often quite technical questions that are always urgent. The Rules Committee also includes the chair of the Seed Science and Technology Editorial Board, the honorary president, and an observer from the Secretariat. Chairs of the Association of Official Seed Analysts and the Society of Commercial Seed Technologists are also included on the committee. AUSA SCST representation and participation is important in the ongoing harmonization efforts between the ISTA rules and the AUSA rules. Annual rule proposals are generally planned and recommended by the TCOMs themselves. They are usually submitted based on committee observations and suggestions received during the year. They may also be submitted from various other sources to the TCOMs for consideration. These other sources can include any participant from an ISTA membership category or even non-members for that matter. Completed proposals are then evaluated and approved by the relevant committee or committees if multiple ISTA chapters are affected. The proposals are then reviewed by the entire Rules Committee to ensure technical consistency between chapters. During this whole process, the Secretariat works closely with the Rules Committee to edit, collate, and ensure the document remains on schedule for publication. The completed proposal document is then submitted to the ECOM for review and approval prior to being circulated to the membership on the ISTA website, and this occurs at least 2 months before the OGM. In early November, committee members submit their proposed changes and validation reports. Sue and I then spend the next few months working with the technical committees to get the reports organized and in draft format. This year, the process described on the previous slide resulted in 10 editorial changes and 16 rule proposals for consideration at the OGM tomorrow. Most of the editorial changes this year are meant to clarify unclear sections within the rules. These changes, in order to be considered editorial, must not change the intent of the sections that they're in. There are also several editorial corrections submitted that were approved by the membership at past OGMs, but were missed in previous updates. Whenever we find this or whenever this happens, we correct those errors in the next rules publication. Just like any other document of this type, the ISTA rules are continually evolving to remain relevant in the face of new technology, new seed kinds and varieties, and new market conditions. So while doing routine work of Vista, the Rules Committee, the ECOM, and the Secretariat are always looking for ways to improve the rules process. This year, as I mentioned at the Open Rules Committee, the biggest decision that we made was to offer a virtual rules meeting each year. We hope that this change will allow more of ISTA stakeholders to get involved in the rules process. As I said earlier, anyone can submit a rule proposal for a change within the rules. The key is to get your idea to the appropriate TCOM in time for them to be able to discuss and perform validation studies if necessary. Early submissions will improve the chances of it being published at the next OGM, or before the next OGM. November 1st is the deadline to have proposals submitted for the January 1st publication. Now, while it's preferred to also have the editorial corrections turned in by November 1st also, we all understand that we can't control when these errors occur. Often these editorial corrections are being made, well, right up until now. Corrections received after the membership has approved the document at the OGM are generally put on hold until the next publication, because we like to make sure that the stakeholders are aware of all the changes that we make in the ISTA rules, even if they were already previously approved. So throughout the year, if you notice any issues with the rules, any kind of editorial corrections that need to be made, please reach out to me, Sue, the ISTA Secretariat, or any of the Rules Committee chairs that are the relevant chapters to let them know so that we can get those changes made. One final thing, 2 weeks ago, we held our open rules discussion. I have updated the rules document and the comments document based on the comments that I received during the session. They are now available for you to see on the ISTA website under preparatory documents. So please go take a look at those. If you have any questions between now and tomorrow, you can try to reach out to me or try to reach out to the chairs of the relevant committees that presented the proposal, because during the rules day we will not have any comments or many comments that will be accepted during the rules session. We'll just kind of go through those rules and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernest, for your very comprehensive presentation. That was very good and very helpful. I remind you again that we still have the question and answer session open, and I would like all participants now to join for the question and answer session. While we are doing that, there was a question which was more technically on how to join and participate at the open meetings of the technical committees. Please go to the ISTA website and go under upcoming events, and there you find places to register for these upcoming events. They're all for free, but you need to register for these events. I've got a few questions, not for everybody, and I have to concentrate on them, on what I think are the most important ones. Please excuse, but you know, if you have technical questions, please contact the technical committees. You saw that there are a lot of questions incoming, and that is sometimes important. I have a question for Alison, where it says, is the emergence test going to be validated as a vigor test for cotton seeds as an alternative to the cold germination test by AOSA? Is there any other vigor test being issued for cotton seeds currently?
We have done work on radical emergence with cotton in the past with collaborators from Australia, and we did find a relationship between radical emergence and success in the field, or emergence in the field. We haven't done any further work, and it's partly because none of our members are experienced with cotton or have easy access to cotton seed material. Often our limitation is availability of seed material as well as time. So there is great potential for cotton with radical emergence. And if you wanted to contact me, I could give you guidelines as to how to work on it yourself. This is one of the problems of the bigger committee. There's many species where we think particularly radical emergence would be feasible, but we can't work on all species, but we can give guidance on what to do to try to develop something for yourself.
Thank you very much. Elisa, there's a question for you from Bimal Tapa Shetri from Nepal. They have requested to include 4 species such as Sapindus, Cinnamomum, Santoxylum, and Cherospadias. Oh my goodness, that was a very complicated one. And the ester roots for germination, could you tell us on the projects of them, on the status?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we already talked by email, and yeah, we have to discuss this with the group, but it's a process to include the new species in the ester rules, and we have to discuss this. I think the person already sent me I asked to explain us the importance of these species, the economic importance of these species. I think they sent me by email, and we have to discuss this. Is it a process, right, Andreas, to include a new species? But
they
we
need
will
to
talk, yeah.
As you said, Elisa, they need to fulfill some requirements like commercial. Is it a commercial species which is traded or not? Is it a species which we can find in others and combine with others, and where we have data, or do we have to generate new data? And are data available also from the person who's asking for it, which they can pass on to us? And if it is on forest species, it's of course also a combination on germination between the forestry and shrub and the germination committee to work and make a validation possible here. And we always expect a little bit that the people who are asking for it, or the laboratories who are asking for it, that they also participate actively in these validations, because they might have some more information which are important background informations which you might need. We are always very happy in getting these. Thank you, Elisa. Alison, I've got one for you as well, coming, let's say, from around the corner, you could say, because it's Laura who's asking that question. She thanks you for the presentation and asks if the covered paper method is currently used for radical emergence testing. Would you recommend changing this?
We haven't recommended the covered paper method at all for any of our radical emergence tests. When we did the comparative test with the Avina, we just gave them the directions to use their normal between paper test. 2 labs normally used just covered, and this is why we got the differences. And having seen that, we would not recommend using covered paper, and it drew our attention to being very specific about which between paper method to use. In all our other radical emergence tests, we've either said rolled towel or pleated paper. So I don't think it's a problem for any of the tests that are already validated. I hope that answers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentations and taking part in the answering session. Sorry that I didn't have questions for everybody of you, but that is probably okay. I've got a question for our president, who would also like to join us in the panel and give his closing remarks. And the question is very interesting. What is the cooperation between ISTA and AOSA?
Thank you for that question, and thanks to everybody who's been on the panels from the technical committees today. So I think Ernest started already answering that in the members of the AOSA and SCST rules committees are a member of the ISTA rules committee. And we also have several members from AOSA laboratories on ISTA technical committees, and we've always encouraged membership from all regions of the world, and North America, USA is an important region for us. That's the region that I represent on the executive committee, and have discussions with Ernest about how we can involve people from both organizations. And we have been actively trying to propose ISTA rules proposals at the same time as they go through to AOSA rules proposals. And indeed, the agar with the Pinus sylvestris is an example of that. That's going forward to the ISTA rules proposals this year and AOSA this year as well. So we do try to collaborate both at the technical level and also at the executive level. I've had discussions with David as AOSA president, and we will be participating in the AOSA meeting. And we invite the AOSA representatives to our annual meetings, and I hope they will be able to attend the virtual meeting tomorrow, along with many others of you. I hope that answers Andreas and gives people a view of the collaborations.
Thank you very much. It's still up to you to give us your closing remarks, Steve.
Thank you very much, Andreas. So one of the things I'd like to do is to thank everybody, but also to mention that this is really a small snapshot of the work of the technical committees. It's been a very good snapshot and a very good view of that. But I know many of the technical committees are now hosting open meetings for everybody to join, which Andreas said that you can register on the ISTA website to do that. Registration is free. And what I'd like to do to encourage you is to look at the events section. And there you will also see an event scheduled for at the moment, I think 8th of June, but it's going to be changed to the 15th of June. Which is a collaborative webinar between ISTA and ISSS. And the sessions there will look at how ISTA methods are used in gene banks, and then also look at the research behind some of the storage requirements of seed from two presenters with close associations between ISTA and ISSS. So that's Manuela and Christina. That will also be an introduction from myself as ISTA president and Henk as ISSS president. So I hope you can join us on the 15th. And like I said, that's been moved to the 15th of June to avoid clash with some of the other open meetings that are going on from ISTA. But it's a very active time over the next 2 weeks. And there is also the AOSA meeting starting at some stage too. So I know there's lots of virtual events now, and people are starting to make use of the virtual seminars and webinars as we can't travel. It's a shame that we can't travel, but I really thank everybody for their collaborations yesterday and today to give everybody that snapshot of the ISTA work, which is so valuable. The work in the technical committees as the members and the chairs and vice chairs is really appreciated by the membership and by the executive. So we really want to thank you for your time and effort that you put in on voluntary basis. I know supported by your organizations in many cases, but also many hours of your free time as well. So I thank you very much for that. I'd also like to thank the thank the Secretariat and our moderator, Andreas. You're doing a wonderful job moderating, so we can add that to your CV now as well. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ernest, in particular, to give us the overview of the rules sessions and doing that preliminary information session that you're going to do on an annual basis now, ready for the OGM tomorrow. So I'd remind people to try and join us a little bit later in the day tomorrow for the OGM. But before we leave, I really want to get Valerie Cockrell up on the screen. I hope she's there with a webcam, because I'd really like to thank Valerie as the ECOM liaison and coordinator for the TCOMs. She, along with Nadine in the Secretariat and Andrea, are doing a wonderful job helping and supporting the technical committees, and as a huge job to put the coordination and group meetings on. So thank you very much, Valerie. I'd really like to thank you for doing this. I don't know if you wanted to say anything just before we leave.
I think you've said most of it, Steve. So yeah, just thank you very much to all the TCOMs and for the presentations and all the work that they're doing. I think I said yesterday, if anybody was listening, that they really are the workhorse of ISTA. And yeah, during COVID times, they've done a tremendous amount of work to keep everything going. So we thank them very much. And I would also say that most of your plaudits should really go to Nadine and Andrea for keeping the TCOMs going.
Yeah, we really appreciate their help and support, and they're doing a great job there within the Secretariat for us. So that's very much appreciated. So I don't know if I think that more or less brings the sessions to a close, and Andreas. But I think if people wanted to, they could open up their webcams and we could say goodbye for the day. But I don't know if there's any last admin points for you to make, Andreas.
No, there's only to mention that we will have the open OGM meeting tomorrow, as you said, and there are a lot of open TCOM meetings, and you can find them on the ISTA website. Okay.
So
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And with that, if people wanted to open up their webcams, by all means do, and then we can say farewell and say be safe, take care of yourselves, and hope to see you at a future ISTA meeting. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Everything that you do.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Take care, everyone.